This week, we celebrate the last 4 years of nerding out as we enter Season 5 of the Infinite Taylorverse Podcast. We also bring you a rundown of all the fun things that happened at Missouri Comic-Con, including some really cool interviews that we brought back for you guys to enjoy. Welcome to the Infinite Taylorverse. Warning.
Red alert.
Ay, 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 ay!
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger!
That's the emergency alert.
This episode is full of spoilers for some of the latest and greatest nerdy movies and shows.
Spoilers.
Listener discretion is advised. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Infinite Taylorverse Podcast. I'm Billie Taylor.
I'm Taylor Roxer.
And this week, we are here to celebrate 4 years of the Infinite Taylorverse podcast. And it's crazy that last week wrapped up our 4th year, and this episode begins, I guess, what we can call Season 5 of the Infinite Taylorverse podcast. That's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
You know, we've said this a bunch, but we just started this as a couple of nerds wanting to have fun. And we've been doing it consecutively, weekly, for 4 years now. And we're entering our 5th year. And man, it's been a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always great to sit down and get to talk. We met some cool people. We've had some good times for sure.
Yeah. And before we get too far into all that, Taylor, what have you been nerding out about this week, man?
PlayStation Plus games this month, the free ones for the PS4 anyway, are this game called High on Life and then Mr. Pac-Man World. Have you played either one of these games?
I haven't.
High on Life is written by the guys from Rick and Morty and voiced by them as well.
Okay.
And it's a sci-fi first-person shooter. It's hysterical. I'm not going to give anything away, but don't play it with your kids,
Okay.
please. But it's a really, really funny game. And the other one is a platformer. It's the one that the Smash Brothers Pac-Man's based off of.
Okay.
Yeah, that model. But yeah, it's good.
Nice. I guess for me, I'm nerding out about some series that I wrapped up. I know almost every week I've been talking about how much my son and I have been enjoying the anime Hunter x Hunter, and we finally wrapped it up last week. And yeah, it was awesome. I can't recommend it enough for people who enjoy anime. It ends in a space that is conclusive enough, but also leaves it open for more, like actually a lot more, a whole different direction it can take. And then the series is over, which is kind of a bummer. But there's been rumors that the manga writers are going to write some more, which could eventually lead to more of the show. And that would be amazing. So yeah, if they make more of that book and then make more of the show, I'm 100% going to be down to watch it. And oh, I also finished up Cobra Kai on Netflix. That was so good.
Does it set it up for this movie that's coming out?
I think this just kind of concludes the overall storyline that we've been getting with, Johnny and Daniel and all those guys. We see some of the major villains of the series have some total redeeming moments, and then we see the way that things wrap up in a very emotional but also very cool way. Well, this show, it's wonderfully cheesy, and I mean that in the best way possible.
Yes, it is.
It's the same feel as when you watch those old movies. Well, this series ends in such a way that in the past few years, we've seen Johnny and Daniel kind of come to terms with their past relationship when they were young and kind of join forces. And things get to a point where, okay, the Miyagi-Do, which is Daniel's thing, that's how they enter this final world competition. But a whole lot of junk goes down and they have to figure out a way to still continue because Miyagi-Do was disqualified. Well, Cobra Kai wasn't disqualified, so the remaining members put on the Cobra Kai outfits. And because they were Cobra Kai students in the past, it wasn't like cheating out of nowhere. So
Yeah.
the series ends with Cobra Kai students going to this final round of this tournament, and of course winning, and the bad guys get all that shoved in their face. And I don't know. It ended pretty awesome, I thought. For Cobra
That's
Kai,
awesome.
Cobra Kai wins. And
Good.
yeah, it was great. And, Johnny's really crappy life. He gets a family, he gets a wife, he gets a baby, he has a new stepson and his original son. And it's just, his whole life has kind of come full circle. And it ends really heartwarming. And I thought it was awesome.
Good.
I also had a chance to see Captain America Brave New World, but let's
We
talk
can
about
talk about
that.
it next week,
Yeah,
and then because I'm going to go see it this weekend.
that'll be perfect. I enjoyed it and I cannot wait to talk about it with you. So yeah, go out there and see that too, guys.
If you
But
gave it an A, B, and C, what would you give it on a letter grade?
I feel like I'd give it a B plus.
Okay.
The best part of this movie to me is how many loose ends it tied up from the greater MCU as a whole.
Yeah, it was at one of those kind of movies where it just like went around and just checked off some things for you.
Yeah, it really did.
It's what we needed, I think.
I think so too. And got to see some past characters and new characters. And the whole Red Hulk thing is quite a bit different than the comics, but I actually enjoyed how they did it. It fit perfectly for the MCU, I thought. And yeah, I really liked it. And I'm excited to talk about it next week with you.
Is he a one and done, or are they keeping him around?
Um, Questionable.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think you'll know what I mean when you see it. It's like maybe yes, maybe no. I really don't know. But hey, as I said earlier, this is episode 1 of year 5, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to take a second and just talk about what's been great. And when I think back on this year, it's kind of always the same old type of answers, but man, the opportunities we've been given by doing this podcast has been so cool. So yeah, let me think back. During this past year, we've had a lot of cool things happen. We've been to a lot of cool events. We've watched a lot of cool shows, a lot of cool movies, read some cool stuff, played some cool stuff. So, yeah, let's think back for a second. If I had to pick my favorite show of this past year, I really got to think for a second. For me, there's a bunch on the list. If I narrowed it down to a couple, I would have to go with season 4 of Superman and Lois. That was my favorite show of the year. It was so good. It ended so well. And if I had to throw out an honorable mention, I would probably pick the first new season of Doctor Who with Ncuti Gatwa. I loved it so
Okay.
much.
My two shows this year have been Monday Night Raw on Netflix, which has been incredible. I can't believe I'm 11 episodes in,
Yeah.
which means, yeah, it's nuts. If you're not watching it, if you've ever been a fan of wrestling, come back. It's amazing. And then my second would be X-Men 97.
Oh, yeah.
Even though it's animated, I guess I could put it also in my animated show of the year that I liked.
Yeah.
Even though that might be Bluey.
Right?
Yeah, I would definitely put that there.
You know, if we did an animated category, those two would absolutely be mine too. Bluey, because it's just great every time. And X-Men 97 was so good.
Well, yeah, well, they had that sign episode, so it was probably one of the best episodes of Bluey ever.
Yeah.
Plus, X-Men 97, not only did it wrap up a bunch of stuff from my childhood, which no one ever talks about this, but it wrapped up the fact that Peter never met Mary Jane at the end of the Spider-Man animated series.
Right.
Isn't
We got that
like,
closure. That 5 seconds on screen, we got some closure.
like, oh, they did find each other. We don't know why or like how or anything, but we saw it happen, so we know that it happened. So there's that. I would guess those would be my picks.
Yeah. How cool would it be if in the next year or two we got some more of the 90s Spider-Man, the animated series?
I mean, they did so well with this X-Men show. I've kind of been holding my breath on it, but we'll see. I mean, the Spider-Man show was the reason that all those shows got canceled.
Yeah. And they do have a new Spider-Man cartoon out right now, so maybe they're not going to double up on it.
Yeah, I mean, I would a hard time, especially since the new Spider-Man show is just so good.
Yeah.
Too.
Side
But
note, what have you been thinking about that Spider-Man show?
well, you know me, I don't generally binge shows, and I binged it.
Right.
So, if that tells anybody anything, also, if you're a purist, you'll hate this show. I'm
Oh,
just
absolutely.
putting it out there 100%. If you're one of those people who doesn't like their stories being muddled with, just don't watch it.
Yeah.
Honestly, don't watch it. You're just going to sit there and get angry. Don't do it to yourself. Unless you're just a fan of animation, the animation's beautiful. And if you can get over yourself, it's an amazing show.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely not for a purist, and it's not for diehard MCUers either. It is its own thing,
Yep.
and it's very, very good.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously, 1, it's fiction. 2, in a universe where multiverses exist, I don't understand why people get so mad at changes. And
Yeah.
3,
But
it's
this,
just really
this
good.
they have done some things here that have refreshed the story, made it, invigorated it. I just think it's great.
Oh, me
Yeah.
too.
And it explains an Osborne thing that has bothered me from the very beginning, too, which is kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. As of us recording, there's 8 episodes out. At the end of this week, by the time you guys are listening to us, all 10 of this first season will be out. And I'm excited because it seems like we're going to, see his traditional Spidey suit coming up. And it's great. I've enjoyed it so much. And I kind of like where they're going with it. And I'm finding myself surprised every week, like, oh, I didn't see that coming. And I'm just enjoying it. It's already been greenlit for seasons 2 and 3. So that's a good sign,
Did
I think.
so what do you think the Osborne thing is? Because I'm pretty sure I figured it out, how that's all going to go down.
You mean with,
Harry and Norman.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on all that?
I think it'll be Neglect is the villain.
Okay.
I think what's going to happen is Norman is going to neglect Harry. And since Norman's already kind of something nefarious is going on in the background,
Yeah.
Harry's going to get jealous of Peter because of Norman's interest, yada, yada, yada.
I
And
can
that's
see
how it's
that.
going to go down.
Yeah. Oh, last week we did get our first glimpse at the Goblin Glider, which was cool, I thought.
Yeah, that was neat.
And
We also saw Daredevil, though, too.
oh, that was so cool too. And even though it's not MCU, that was Charlie Cox's voice, so I thought that was cool.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I didn't know if any of them were actually the people or not.
Yeah, so far he's been the only person from the MCU to do their character's voice. But
Oh, okay.
that was cool.
That is cool.
But yeah, definitely a fantastic show. Let's see, thinking some more back of 2024. How about movies? I kind of have mine already. So
Okay.
my favorite of these, sci-fi superhero type stuff that we loved, I have to go with Deadpool and Wolverine. It seems like low-hanging fruit to pick that, but man, I loved it so, so, so much.
Okay. Mine was Transformers 1.
Oh, that was so good too. That was a good one.
I felt like that movie was the best movie I saw all year.
That one was unexpectedly good.
Yeah, that it explained a lot of stuff. I thought it was just so good. Everything about it.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that could be the origin story for the Transformers, and I'd be okay with it.
Oh, same here. And yeah, if they choose to make this an origin and just move forward with a whole series of movies afterwards, I would be so okay with that.
Yeah, because it explains like everything all the way down to like why Starscream's voice is so crazy
Yeah.
sounding, which unbelievable brain power to make that be
Right.
that's what that was. That's incredible.
Yep. And as I mentioned earlier, Deadpool and Wolverine, that movie was so good to me. And it was so fun to see a little bit of, even as weird and humorous as it was, some closure for a lot of old Fox Marvel characters.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder if we'll see any of those characters again. I know without a doubt we're going to see Wolverine and Deadpool at some point, but I wonder if any of those other guys will show up in, a Secret Wars situation.
I think we'll see Gambit
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
and Blade and Elektra. I'm pretty sure that isn't that what they said?
That seems like that's what they've said. Either way, I loved those characters, and I don't know if you know this, they just came out, but there are Funkos of those versions of the characters now, and I thought those were cool.
Those are cool.
Yeah, let's see. When I think back on video games, you know me, I'm a sucker for a Legend of Zelda game. And in 2024, my favorite game was probably Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. It was really cool to play it. I liked the old school style, but the way they've kind of modernized it, the way they did Link's Awakening a few years ago. And it was just cool to get to play as Zelda and save the kingdom as her. That was kind of cool. And the abilities were cool. I liked the way that you could choose your own adventure, so to say, where how you defeat a bad guy or how you complete a puzzle or a dungeon, there's 1,000 different ways. So it's kind of up to the player to do it certain ways. And that was just a really fun game.
Yeah, I think my favorite game that I played this year was the Skywalker Saga, the remake of not the remake, but the remaster of the Star Wars games,
Okay.
the Lego Star Wars games. That's my favorite game this year.
Oh, nice.
I'm really close to 100%ing it. I've been playing it on and off all year long. So, yeah,
Oh, that's cool. I really enjoy the Lego games. They're a lot of fun.
I do too. And especially I think they're easy passive games to play too, which is,
Yeah.
I always really like a really good passive game. Because if you guys, if you listen to podcasts now, I listen to a lot of music. My Spotify it's crazy. Please go check it out. Taylor Oxner, period. Spotify. I got a lot of playlists on there, things like that. But I listen to an ungodly amount of music. It's just something I've done since I was a kid, and I haven't stopped. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll turn the music off on games and listen to my music and play the games. And I do that pretty much almost every game I own. At some point, I will get tired of the game music and put on my own music, but leave all like the sound effects and everything on.
Yep.
And play that way. And I have played a lot of games that way and listened to a lot of albums that way and things. So yeah, it's Lego games are like awesome for that. Another game that's really awesome for that is Hollow Knight, which I've talked about on the show a lot.
Yeah.
It's really good. This new Pac-Man game I'm playing is really good for that too. But yeah.
That's awesome. It's not a game I've played this past year, but I think my favorite Lego game is Lego Marvel 2. Have you played that one?
So I get all the Lego Marvel games all mixed up because at a certain point they like changed them to like Lego Marvel Avengers games.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's called Lego Superheroes 2.
Okay.
And it's a big island, and each part of the island is like a different, like it's set up like a pie.
Okay. The one I'm thinking of, it's straight up areas from Marvel.
Yeah, that's what it is, but it's set up like a pie.
Maybe I haven't played in long enough that I can't remember that part of it.
The middle of it is the skyscraper, or not the skyscraper, the
New York City scape.
helicarrier.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
helicarrier. And then you can jump off the helicarrier, and when you're falling down, you can fall into any of the different areas
Maybe that's it.
of New York, basically.
What's standing out of my mind is you could be Miss Marvel, you could be any of them famous Avengers. I think
Yeah, there are like 150 characters.
Yeah, I think you can even be, Frog Thor, all kinds of crazy
Oh, yeah.
characters.
Yeah.
I just love games where you can fly. So I think that's what makes me like those Lego games the best, because you can pick characters to fly.
I do like games you can fly. There's something about being overweight at one point or another in your life and just being like, what if I could fly?
Right. Yeah, that's relatable.
It's like when I saw the Wall-E movie and I saw those people floating around, I was just like, yeah, but it didn't seem that bad.
Right. Let's see. Oh, if we get into books, I think my favorite thing to read in 2024, and it's definitely spilling over into 2025, was the new Volume 2 of Ultimate Spider-Man. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So good. I love the whole new origins of these characters that all happens because of some time-traveling bad guy. And I think we're 12 or 13 issues in now at this point, and man, I keep getting surprised every week at stuff that they do. And just this past issue, you find out that Peter and Harry have been kidnapped for all these months, and these weird symbiote-looking shapeshifter things have been taking over their lives for a little while. And that came out of nowhere. I didn't even see that coming. And hopefully that storyline wraps up with some closure soon. And yeah, it's just so good. And I'm really liking this new origin.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That reminds me of during Secret Invasion when during the event, like halfway through the event, they found that spaceship full of Marvel characters, and they're like, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
When they realized that some of these characters have been Skrulls for a very long time.
Yeah.
And then Marvel did that thing where they retconned, where it showed which characters and when they got snatched up. And there are comics from the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, this character hasn't been his person since the 80s. And then that's how they explain the fact that Wolverine was everywhere. There were like multiple Skrull Wolverines on planet Earth at some point or another.
Oh, that's funny.
Did you know that?
I don't think I remembered that.
Yeah, so at one point, editorial was like, we have 4 Wolverines running around. And so during Secret Invasion, that's how they explained it.
Well, that makes sense. A good way to retcon it.
But it's the same thing they did with Hawkman in Hyper Time.
Yeah.
In the DC universe, they couldn't figure out which Hawk. There was, 2 Hawkmen? One of them was an alien, and one of them was from the past or something.
Yeah.
And so that's how they had to fix that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hawkman and Wolverine are both editorial issues.
Yeah. Let's see. Trying to think back of some of the real zingers, the real not so great things from 2024.
Oh.
The first one on the list for me is probably Madam Web.
Was that in 2024?
Yeah.
No way.
Yep.
Craven, Venom 3, and that all came out in 2024.
Yep. I have
Jeez.
still yet to see Craven.
I haven't seen Craven either. Yeah.
Yep, Madam Web was
Uh,
2024. I just double checked.
Dang, they put out a lot of movies that year.
Yeah, and I think we can all have a collective sigh of relief knowing that this Sony Venomverse is no more.
Yeah, let's not have a moment of silence for that.
Yes, let's all cheer and shout hurrah.
Yeah.
What about you? If you had to think of some real ugh from TV or movies or something.
Oh man. I don't know. What was something that we watched that was just Oh, Venom 3 was really bad.
Yeah, I didn't find it as bad as Madam Web, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, I didn't even watch Madam Web though. So I guess I would say Venom 3 was my big doozy this year.
And I'm trying to think back on some events from 2024 that we both, one or another, or both of us had a chance to attend. And obviously, the cons we get the chance to attend were all great. All the Casey Retro event was amazing. And
Yeah, that's my favorite usually.
yeah, we had Planet, which we kind of both attended separately, I guess, but it was a fun event. And oh, I had the chance to go to that Missouri Con last year, Missouri Comic Con in Springfield, and got some really cool interviews out of the deal. So that was a great event. And I think you've said this before, but as fun as all the books and the toys and the cool interviews and celebrities are, it's most fun to just run into people that we only get to see at those events and see our friends and stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like we get to see people like special characters from episodes that we only get to see every once in a while.
Right.
It's kind of the same deal.
It's our best supporting actors in our lives.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It's just good to see everybody a lot of times.
Oh, yeah. And I'm excited that, now that it's 2025, just last week, I had the opportunity to go to Missouri Comic Con again. And we've got just in the next few months, there's Kansas Comic Con coming up, Planet Comic Con. This summer, we'll have KC Crypticon and then KC Collecticon. And the whole thing will just start all over again.
Yeah.
Oh, dang. I would be remiss. This wasn't necessarily a podcast endeavor, but my family kind of rallied together and sent me to Rhode Island to meet the cast of Back to the Future. That's for sure a highlight of my life.
Yeah, I would necessarily that probably the highlight of your year.
Oh, for sure. It was so cool. And, looking up to those people since I was a little kid and then finally getting to see them in person and see just how kind they are. And then, of course, Michael J. Fox and all of the things he's going through with his health. And he was still doing all that like a trooper, man. It was awesome. It was great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, 2024 was amazing, and I'm looking forward to what 2025 has to come.
Absolutely.
And then to kind of conclude our episode here, I thought I would talk about my amazing time last week over at Missouri Comic Con. I had the chance to meet some cool people and get some things signed, and obviously I got some interviews to bring back for you guys to listen to. But just a quick rundown. My kids went to this event with me, and my daughter was awesome. She was kind of my videographer and recorded things when I needed her to. And the first thing we did was we got into Tom Kenny's line. And for those of you listening, Tom Kenny, that's the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants. And this line was ridiculous. It was so long. We went there first, and I'm so glad we did. We were probably 30th in line, and we were in line for a long time. After we got in line, and like I said, we were about 30th in line, there were countless hundreds of people behind us. And I'm like, man, I'm so glad we came here first. But we got to wait a little bit and meet him. And man, he was super cool. He signed my Funko Pop that I brought, and we got to talking. And I told him it was kind of funny because I teach this advanced biology class at school. And we are going through all of the different levels of animals, and the lowest one on the list is sponges because they're very separate. They have no defining characteristics that are the same as other animals, blah, 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 blah. But I told him, hey, man, I'm a teacher, and my kids think it's really cool that this unit we just did was all about sponges, and I'm getting to meet the coolest sponge, SpongeBob SquarePants. And he laughed at that, thought it was cool. And then he even looked at his handler guy and said, hey, hand me that poster. And he signed a new poster that said, to all the smart fish in the Taylorverse. And he signed it. And he's like, here, you got to hang this in your classroom. Tell him it's from SpongeBob. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And he was so nice to my kids. And it was just one of those just really cool moments. And unfortunately, like I said earlier, his line was ridiculous. events. And when you're at these events, and I had, a media press pass and everything, so I have permission, as long as the celebrities don't care, to interview people. And it's just one of those common courtesies when their line is ridiculous. You don't ask for an interview because it interrupts everything.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, didn't get an interview with him. It just was just not in the cards. But he was so cool. And let's see, the next person on the list that I had to run to was Catherine Sutherland, who is the second pink Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. And I think I've mentioned this before. I've met every single one of them that's still alive except for her. So it was really cool getting to meet her. And I told her that. And she noticed my Green Ranger / White Ranger tattoo and asked me about it. And I told her about how we got to interview Jason David Frank for this podcast. And then he passed away the next month. And my tattoo artist friend kind of did this as a tribute for him. And so I asked her, would you be willing to do an interview? And she said, absolutely. And so got to interview her. It was really cool. Let me throw that in here.
Hey guys, it's Billie here, and we are at Missouri Comic-Con in Springfield, Missouri, and I'm with the wonderful Catherine Sutherland. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. So our listeners who've listened the past 5 years, you guys know that growing up, Power Rangers was just my jam, and there wasn't anything that I loved as much as that when I was little, and then now that I have my own little ones, it's cool to bring it to them, and it changes when you're an adult. It's not quite the same,
Yes.
but getting to watch it through their eyes is so cool, and you guys also know that Mighty Morphin was my favorite era, and Catherine is the last one that I'm finally meeting, so I'm so glad that you're here. And I guess I always ask a few questions, like rewinding time a little bit back when you started. What was that experience like for you? And what led you to that? And how'd you prepare for that and everything?
Yeah. Well, they were filming the first movie in Australia, and they were looking for a new ranger. Amy had decided she wanted to leave the show. And so I originally auditioned for Dulcia in the movie, actually.
Okay.
And then I got the opportunity to audition for the Pink Ranger, and I didn't know anything about Power Rangers. I just knew it was a kids show that was filming in America, which was exciting to me as an actor, And so I had to do a scene and then a martial arts routine. And then I met the producer, and I remember being very confident and saying, I hope you make the right decision to him, which I would never have said. I don't know what came over me. And about 3 weeks later, they called me and offered me the role. So it took a little bit to get visas and everything together, but they brought me over from Australia, and I lived near the studio where we filmed in California. And it was a big culture change. I went from driving on the wrong side of the road and learning all these new terms and trying to adjust to a new culture in a busy world that I was not used to. And it was really exciting but also lonely. I had to leave my whole family behind. And when I joined the show, they were all doing a press junket for the movie. So I didn't meet the Rangers for probably 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I was in this foreign land. I was meeting some of the crew and doing fittings and things like that. But it was a big change to my life.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And so you were, it sounds like, into acting before that. Who were some of the people that inspired you when you were a kid? And
obviously Olivia Newton-John.
Right.
She was my, I wish I could have met her. I loved her. I loved, Meryl Streep, Nicole Kidman. I think I was always really inspired by movies. I loved the escape of it, and I wanted to be a positive influence to people. So it's ironic that I ended up being a superhero, because it's the best way to be a positive influence.
Yeah.
And it was a big. It's hard to step into the shoes of someone who's already established a role. So I was really aware of what that meant, and how to bring something of my own to the role, so that I wasn't compared to her.
Yeah.
Because Amy Jo was loved, Kimberly was such a loved character, and I didn't want people to think I was trying to replace that.
Yeah. It was really cool. One thing about that show is every time someone new came in, I never thought it felt like that. It was just who is this new person? Why are they so cool too? You know?
Yes.
I just remember, I think I was in 2nd or 3rd grade when Power Rangers came out, and all my little friends would get together and watch it and talk about it, and just things like that when we knew a big change was coming, but we didn't know the details, kind of like this day and age with spoilers and everything. Yeah. We're sitting at the edge of our seat wondering what the heck's going to happen. And so with each little change, it was just such a cool thing.
Aw, thank you.
So aside from all that, what's something that you currently, it's the end of a long day, you're getting to sit back and chill a little bit. What's something you love to do these days?
Yeah, I'm still a mom, so, we're busy with dinners and stuff, but at the end of the day, my husband and I love to snuggle up on the couch, and my favorite show at the moment is a show called The Resident, so I'm watching that.
Yep.
I love all the Taylor Sheridan shows, Yellowstone, and
Oh, yeah.
Landman. I just finished that. So, and I love reading. So I have a little book club with a couple of friends. So I'm reading books right now, which is really nice. Just simple things.
That's really cool.
Yes.
And then I'll leave you with one last question.
Yes.
Since we're at a big con, a nerdy event like this, if you could find yourself for a couple of days in any of these fictional universes, where do you think would be a really fun time to hang out?
Fun time to hang out. I was going to say Game of Thrones, but no, I would
no.
not want to be in that time. I love the show, but no.
It's a tough one.
That's a tough one. My Little Pony.
There you go.
Sounds like
a lot safer than Westeros.
safer than Westeros. Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for a few minutes of your
Thank you.
time. And
Thank you.
I know our listeners are going to think this is so cool, and appreciate it. Thanks for coming to Springfield.
Thank
and
you.
yeah, have a good rest of your time
nice
here.
to meet you, Billy.
Nice to meet you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
But yeah, she was so sweet. And now I've met every single Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, good for you, man.
It's like a full circle thing for little kid me, man.
Yeah.
Life was a little tumultuous at times, but the Rangers, man, they were my friends. They were there for me. She also signed one of my Pink Ranger Funko Pops, which was super awesome.
Yeah, that is cool.
And let's see. The next one on the list, didn't get an interview, but I got to meet Vernon Wells. He was the villain Rancic on Power Rangers Time Force. He was the main villain, kind of like Rita or Lord Zed with Mighty Morphin. He was their main guy. But this dude's also in a ton of other stuff. He was the villain on Mad Max Fury Road. And do you remember that movie Inner Space with Martin Short and Dennis Quaid?
Oh, yeah, I love that movie.
He's the big stalking assassin guy that's following the whole movie. He's that guy
Oh,
too.
okay.
And he's in a ton of other stuff like that, and he was super cool. He doesn't have a Power Ranger Funko Pop, but he had the character from Mad Max, so I had him sign that Funko Pop, and I thought that was really cool.
That's awesome.
Oh, my kids and I were real excited to go get in line with the actress Christina Vee, and she's the voice of a ton of characters in anime and other things. For us, the most exciting part was that she's Killua on Hunter x Hunter. She's Ladybug on that Ladybug and Cat Noir show. She's Verasica from that new Helluva Boss show. If you've played Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, she's the voice of that bird Tulin. And that's just a few. She's got a ton of characters throughout animation, and she was super sweet. And Oliver, it's really funny, Oliver can get a little shy, but he had so many questions for her, and she answered all of them. It was so nice. But her line was also ridiculous. It was probably the second craziest line at this whole event next to Tom Kenny. So I didn't get to get an interview from her, but I let her know how many of my students loved Hunter x Hunter. So she did a really cool shout out for some of my students. And here, I'll throw that in here real quick.
Hello, I'm with Mr. Taylor. I'm Christina Vee. I'm the voice of Killua Zoldyck and Sailor Mars and a lot of other characters. And this is my shout out to your club. Corey, Hudson, and Taylor. Special shout out to you guys.
And Desiree.
And Desiree. I said Taylor.
That's okay.
Well, you get a special shout out.
Perfect.
That's fair.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you all.
But yeah, she was awesome. It was really cool to meet her. Oh, so I got to get in line and meet the actor Chris Sarandon, and that was really cool. If you ever watched The Princess Bride, which is my wife's all-time favorite movie, he was the evil Prince Humperdinck, the one that killed Inigo Montoya's father.
Yeah.
He's the speaking voice of Jack Skellington on Nightmare Before Christmas. He's in Fright Night. He's in all kinds of stuff. And he was really cool. He signed my Jack Skellington Funko Pop. He was real nice to my kids, and he let me interview him as well. And let me throw that in here real quick.
What's up, guys? It's Billy here, and we are at Springfield, Missouri, at Missouri Comic-Con, and I'm here with the legendary actor, Mr. Chris Sarandon. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, thanks.
So, our viewers love all kinds of pop culture stuff, and you are just a staple in pop culture. You've been in amazing things like The Princess Bride, of course, which, shout out to my wife, that's her favorite movie. And you're Jack Skellington, for goodness sakes. Who doesn't go past Christmas without watching that movie?
Yeah, right.
But let me ask you, what has it been like just knowing you've been this big staple and bringing so much joy to so many people's lives, man?
Well, it's humbling. It's very humbling, particularly when I get a chance to do an event like this and hang out with fans and talk to them and understand how much these movies mean in their lives. And that's pretty extraordinary when you can have that kind of effect on it's not just the culture, but it's on people's lives. You know, people who watch these movies to be uplifted or to, you know, if they're having a bad day and they sit down to watch something that they have a great time watching, they sing along with Jack, they boo Humperdinck.
Right.
they're afraid of Jerry Dandridge. It depends on the movie, but they're all part and parcel of how we process the world.
Yeah, that's really great. I know, especially the past handful of years, life got a little crazy for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
All these movies just brought us a sense of, a little bit of calm, a little bit of joy. And
that's what we're after.
Yeah, awesome. So what role maybe has brought you the most joy?
Probably a movie that I did a long time ago, an adaptation of A Tale of Two Cities.
Okay.
I did it for CBS television back in the days when they were doing classic adaptations. And it was shot in London and Paris, and it's first of all, it's one of the great books ever.
Yeah.
And I got to play both characters who are lookalikes, and that the plot sort of hinges on that. And it was just a very fulfilling experience in just so many ways. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Okay, last question. I don't want to take your time too much. At an event like this, it makes me start thinking of all kinds of pop culture and all these wonderful universes. If you could spend a little time in one of these fictional worlds for a day, where would you go?
Wow.
It's a tough one.
If I could spend time in a fictional world?
Yeah.
I think if I could spend time in a fictional world, it's not one of the movies that we're sort of dealing with here.
Right.
It's from books.
Right.
There are several books that I'm a big fan of. They're called the Aubrey Maturin novels by a guy by the name of Patrick O'Brien. And they were made into actually, two of the books were adapted into a movie with Russell Crowe called Master and Commander, which is the first of the books that this man wrote. There are 22 or 23 novels, and they're extraordinary novels that immerse you in a time in which life was not necessarily simpler. It was much more complex in a lot of ways because there were ways that people had of relating to each other that were much more codified. But at the same time, the world that he deals with, which is basically the British Navy in the late 1700s, early 1800s, they're just thrilling. And I'm transported, and I've read them all twice through, and I'm ready to read them again. And there's something about being transported into a world that is so specific, and also it's sexist, it's misogynistic, and as the time was in some ways, that the female characters are very vivid and extraordinary.
That's great.
So they're brilliantly done. I recommend them highly. Patrick O'Brien, and they're called the Aubrey Maturin novels. Yeah.
Wonderful. Definitely have to check those out.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Billy. My
Thanks
pleasure.
for coming to Missouri, and I look forward to seeing what's next with you.
Happy to be here.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
But yeah, that was really cool. It was one of those things where did not expect to get to do that, and he let me, so that was awesome.
Yeah, that's neat.
Oh, and Taylor, did Miles ever get into Yo Gabba Gabba?
No, that was a little bit, I think that was before, like time-wise, it just never synced up, so we never
Gotcha.
saw it. Yeah.
Yeah. That does make sense because my older two kids, Charlie and Oliver, loved Yo Gabba Gabba. And then my nephew, he's almost 5, going on 5 now. He loved Yo Gabba Gabba, like obsessed with it. But one of the guests at this event was DJ Lance, the human character from Yo Gabba Gabba. And I got to do an interview with him. He was so cool and so nice. And
Is he really animated as like a person?
he was very, what's the word I'm looking for? He wasn't quite as full-blown animated as his character, but then when he did our sign-off of our interview, he was very animated during that sign-off.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, actually, I'll throw that interview in right here.
What's up, guys? It's Billy here, and we are at Springfield, Missouri for Missouri Comic-Con, and right now, believe it or not, I'm with the super cool, super awesome Mr. DJ Lance. How you doing?
Hello, friends! Hey, Billy, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome. So, as you guys know, anyone who has children or ever was a child has to know what Yo Gabba Gabba was, and that's where we know Mr. DJ Lance from. And I've got to ask you, man, thinking back a little bit, what led you to that role?
Serendipity.
Right.
Like, you couldn't plan for this. It just was something that happened kind of organically. And Scott Schultz and Christian Jacobs, the guys who created it, were both like young dads at the time. And they're like, these shows for our kids are kind of not so good. And they were both in bands. So they're like, we could probably make a show with better music, and it could probably be something we would enjoy watching as well. So that was kind of the impetus of it. So
that's awesome. So thinking back, before you were entering into this role, what kind of things were, your inspiration? Who inspired you to get into music and being a TV personality and all this stuff?
Well, all this was never meant to happen. I was into music,
right?
Where I was coming from. So I just came out to California to try to do music and do all that stuff. And I literally fell into this because I was doing this show, probably the first internet radio station that was in the States called Spike Radio. And a series of events ended up connecting with Scott Schultz, who was one of the creators. And so we did some shows together because I was in a band, he was in a band, and later it's like, hey, you want to be in a kids' TV show?
Yeah.
And it just kind of happened.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
When you find yourself just relaxing these days, who do you listen to?
I get that question a lot, and it's so... I listen to so many different things, and it's I really like David Bowie a lot.
Okay.
In January was his birthday, and he passed away, so listened to a lot of him in January. And then last week in St. Louis, they did this Black Star Symphony, and it was like they did the whole Black Star album, and then like big hits like Heroes and stuff like that, and with an orchestra. So that was really cool. So I've been feeling that lately, but there's so many different things. Like it just changes like the weather. Like I could just make a list of like 50 things, and a week later it'd be different. I just listen to
That's so cool.
I can tell you who I don't listen to. But
That's easier when you listen to a lot.
I don't know a lot of the new stuff so much. You know what I mean? Like I'm aware of the people, but there's an audience for everybody, and so this is what this whole kind of Comic-Con, culture is about. People like really getting into what they want, and I think it's cool. But there's so many people that are very specific. So I don't have to like everything.
Right, that's right.
But I do like a lot, but I still can't give you a good answer.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Let's see. One last question for an event like this. Knowing all the pop culture, all the nerd stuff that we all love, if you could find yourself hanging out in one fictional universe for a couple days, where would you like to be?
Does it have to be here right now or
anywhere?
That's The Simpsons in Springfield.
Yep.
Not this Springfield, but Springfield, USA.
Right.
For sure.
See all the shenanigans Bart's getting up to.
I go back.
Yeah.
I go back with that was probably my biggest kind of obsession, and it ages pretty well.
It does. It holds up.
You don't have to watch every single one of them, but if I turn on a new one, there's still something I'm like, that's really well written. There's not anything I think that you like every single thing.
Right.
I don't like every single episode of Gabba. But
sure.
No, I do. I like
No, I get what you're saying, man.
Yeah, but it's Springfield's The Simpsons universe, for sure.
That's absolutely awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for coming out to Springfield, man.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I just want to say hello to everyone out there in the Taylorverse, especially Teddy. Here's a big high five. You guys take care, and remember, the Taylorverse is awesome!
But yeah, that was really cool to talk to him. He was more so about music and just kind of fell into this role. And I loved there at the end when he did that shout out for my nephew who was obsessed. And then the way he said the Taylorverse is awesome, like he always does on Yo Gabba Gabba. Let's see, a couple other folks. I got to get in line over with Mark Paul Gosselaar. And if you remember from a couple years ago, he actually did a shout out on the podcast, which was really cool. His line was not crazy, but his agent kind of spoke up and said he doesn't do interviews. And I was like, oh, okay, no problem. But he signed my Zach Morris Funko Pop, which was really cool. Oh, and then I also got in line to see Jason Mewes from Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah.
And I've met him in the past as well and all that, but I had him sign my Jay from the Jay and Silent Bob reboot Funko Pop.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was so cool, and who knows, an interview didn't work out. Maybe we'll work something on the future. That would be awesome. And let's see. Oh, this one was crazy for me. Crazy. So my kids and I got in line to meet Jim Cummings, who's the voice of Darkwing Duck, Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, Hondo from Star Wars, The Clone Wars, and Star Wars Rebels, and gosh, the soldier guy from Aladdin, and he's Pete, and he's Tasmanian Devil. He's the little firefly from Princess and the Frog. He's about 1,000 other things too, but he was so cool. He signed my Darkwing Duck Funko Pop, and he was so funny to my kids, and he was doing all the voices and stuff. And when I asked him if he'd be willing to do an interview, he said absolutely. So we did a quick interview, and let me throw that in here real quick.
What's up, guys? It's Billie here, and we are at Missouri Comic-Con in Springfield, Missouri. And right now, I am with the legendary, 1,000-voiced man of many talents, Mr. Jim Cummings. How you doing today, man?
Hey, man. It's good to be here. Thanks.
Yeah. So I was kind of mentioning earlier, I'm a teacher and we do all kinds of pop culture stuff. And then we have this pop culture podcast. And my kids are just so excited that many people such as yourself are here. And we just wanted to say, first of all, thanks for coming out and meeting us folks and sharing all the joy throughout all these years. And
well, I'm plumb proud to be here. I love Missouri.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
But for those of you guys watching or listening here, Jim, he's been so many iconic voices. Like, for me, it's Darkwing Duck. That is favorite character of all time.
The terror that flaps in the night, in case you didn't know.
And then for some of my younger students here, he's Hondo Ohnaka on Star Wars The Clone Wars.
It is so true. You know, come by and I will give you some investment opportunities.
That's amazing. And then, of course, for everyone who doesn't know, he's Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, which is amazing.
Well, somebody has to do the heavy lifting, and somebody has to do the heavy bouncing.
Oh, and I'd be remiss to not mention that he's Ray the Firefly from Princess and the Frog.
That's true. You know, the women, they love a man with a big back pooch.
Right. That's amazing. Well, Jim,
thank you.
I always like to think about, you guys bring us so much joy. Over the years, what about all this has brought you some joy?
Oh, gosh. You know, I love to see everybody's face. I love to see those little faces light up when you do their favorite character. Or, you know, it's kind of like comfort food for the soul. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I like knowing that people like it and get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
I've got 3 generations under my belt now, sort of, kind of.
Right. And, I mean, things are a little crazy, and we need some joy right now, and you're bringing it to us, man. So thank you so much for all of that.
Thank you.
And, hey, thanks for all your time, and thanks for coming out to Missouri. And
my pleasure.
This is like a highlight you guys don't even understand of my life right now. Just getting to stand next to this.
Oh, well, that's
icon.
great.
So,
you know, shall I tell everybody I've got a podcast?
Absolutely. We love that podcast.
You know, in case you didn't know, I've got a podcast, and it's apparently it's doing really well, so we like that part. And it's called Tuned In with Jim Cummings, TOONDIN with Jim Cummings. So like and subscribe. Come on down. We'll have a few grins. Thank you.
If you're like me and you're a voice actor nerd and you love all the things, that's who he interviews, is other voice actors in the field. So you get to hear...
And many others, too.
Yeah. You get to hear your favorite characters talk to each other. It's amazing.
Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks for your time, and thanks for coming out.
But yeah, that moment was so awesome to me, man. And then here we are. And again, I was just this kid watching all this stuff, using TV as an escape. And then here I am as an adult meeting these people. And he did all of his voices for our podcast. That is so crazy.
That's amazing. I'm so glad your kids got to be there for that.
Yeah. And so much more cool stuff going on. The artist, Steve Lialoha, he's done things with Marvel and DC. He's done Star Wars. He's done Howard the Duck, Spider-Woman. He's done Batman. He's done all kinds of stuff. Oh, I brought my little autograph book that I'm having creators write in. And he signed his name, but he also really quickly sketched Spider-Woman.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was so cool. But yeah, guys, Missouri Comic Con is so fun. And those of you guys listening in the Kansas City area, it's not that far. It was an under 3-hour drive, and the weather was a little not amazing, but the event was awesome. The parking was easy. Getting tickets was easy. The lines were very, very well organized. For people who don't like the whole fast pass thing, this event does not do fast passes. It's just equal opportunities for everyone. And I don't know. It is a great event, and it is slowly becoming my favorite con. And it's every February in Springfield, Missouri. And you're going to want to go follow them on social media and follow this event, because if you're nearby, you're going to want to go. And I'm excited that next month is Kansas Comic Con, which is not Planet Comic Con. It's Kansas Comic Con. It's only year 2 of this event. It takes place over in Wichita, but it's run by the same people. So we're going to have the opportunity to go over there and interview some of those people, and it's going to be so fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I could go on and on about this event. They had great vendors, great artists, great things for sale. Prices were not ridiculous. I got a con shirt for like $20, and I'll just say other cons, it's not that affordable. But again, so much good stuff at this event. I can't sing their praises enough. They're run by this group called VXV Events, and they have events all over the country, actually. So if you're listening from a different part of the country, look up VXV Events and find one of their things going on near you. They got all kinds of stuff. But yeah, we got a lot to celebrate. 2024 was great. 2025 is going to be great. That con was great. But you know what? I have to say, if I had to put an exact reason of why I love doing this podcast so much, nothing is as cool as getting to just talk about nerd stuff with my best friend.
Yeah, it's always fun, always great little escape, and I get to hang out for an hour.
Yeah, it's like if you think of that Jim Cummings interview from a second ago, he mentioned this kind of stuff. It's like food for the soul. Doing this with you is 100% food for my soul, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It gets us a little recharge for next week.
Yep. But hey, guys, thanks so much for these past 4 years listening to us and joining us. And thanks for joining us with what's to come. But hey, as for us here at the Taylorverse, I've been Billy Taylor.
And I'm Taylor Oxner.
And come back next week, guys. Same Taylor time, same Taylor channel.
Bye.
Bye.